I know that we all have at least once made fun of Disney for doing their simple titles. But did you know that all these simple titles is actually because of The Princess and the Frog? Even though nowadays is considered to be a beloved Disney classic, it didn't really do that great at the box office when it was released back in December of 2009. Disney's marketing team have done some research and they have confirmed that it was actually due to the fact that princess is in the title. I mean, The Princess and the Frog was already a mouthful, but the big reason is due to the fact that having the word princess makes a lot of people think that this movie would be girls only. So in order to fix that with their future princess films, they decided to go and completely change their title so that they would be both short and especially gender neutral. This is why Disney would go and change Rapunzel into Tangled, The Bear and the Bow into Brave, and the Snow Queen into Frozen. The result turned out to be way better at the box office, and it taught Disney a lesson that when it comes to titles, the simpler the better. If you're a major Disney fan, then you already know who is Figment for the classic Epcot attraction Journey into Imagination. And you've probably heard that he's going to star in his own movie from the writers of Detective Pikachu. But did you know that Figment has already appeared in a couple of movies before? He was first seen in Pixar's Inside Out, where he was in a picture frame close to the train of thought. He then appeared in Toy Story 4, where he was on a sign in one of the carnival games. Oh, and as an added bonus, a Figment doll made a cameo in the 4th season of Stranger Things. So if I may cap this off in Figment's voice, remember, if you see a purple dragon in something Disney related, don't worry about it. It's only a figment of your imagination. Seth Green did a lot of cool things over the years. He was the voice of Chris Griffin from Family Guy, and he is the co-creator of Robot Chicken. But did you also know that Seth gave us a very good reason why you should never work on a project with NFTs? You see, Green is a major NFT fanboy, and he actually created an entire series in order to devote his love for NFTs. The show is called White Horse Tavern, and it's a comedy set in a bar where live-action actors and animated NFT characters mix and mingle. However, one day, there was a thief that managed to steal some of Seth Green's NFTs, one of which just so happens to also be the main character of White Horse Tavern, which is a massive problem because according to NFT rules, he who owns the NFTs also owns the complete rights of it, thus leading to the serious problem that Seth Green can no longer work on a show because he doesn't own the rights to his lead character. So because there are no government regulations in regards to cryptocurrency, the only way that Seth Green was able to solve the problem was by buying back the NFTs from the thief for over $250,000. And I am certain that this is not going to be the last time that this incident will happen to an NFT project. And so the moral of this story is that when it comes to NFT apes, there's guaranteed to be someone who will make a monkey out of you. Hey, remember El Macho from Despicable Me 2? Well, believe it or not, he was almost voiced by Al Pacino. It went pretty well when the filmmakers worked with Pacino, but sadly, Al ended up leaving the project due to creative differences. Now I know this happens all the time in Hollywood, but this ended up causing a major problem for the production, especially when not only Al Pacino recorded all of his lines already, but also the animation on El Macho was already fully done. So at the last minute, they brought in Benjamin Bratt, whom they actually considered before Pacino, and not only did he do an incredible job filling in for Al Pacino, but he also did great making it his own character. By the way, am I the only one that finds it funny that we actually have two Mexican-themed twist villains in a mainstream animated feature, both voiced by Benjamin Bratt? They're both awesome, but it's worth mentioning the coincidence. We all know the 5 beloved emotions of Inside Out. Joy, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear all work together to make sure that Riley has a good life. But did you know that there was going to be plenty more emotions living inside Riley's head? During development, the team at Pixar thought about over 20 different emotions to turn into characters for the feature. Some would have more antagonistic roles such as pride, envy, greed, and gloom. Some reflect the more negative emotions such as guilt, ennui, shame, and embarrassment. And some emotions were about as optimistic as joy such as love, hope, and schadenfreude. But ultimately, in order to make things easier for both the Pixar team and for the story, they decided to settle with just 5 characters that would work in Riley's head. However, keep in mind that while these characters didn't make it in the film, that doesn't mean it could be the last that we will ever see them. Considering that Disney has announced that there will be an Inside Out 2 for 2024, you never know which emotions might get a second chance. Then again, considering that the plot will be about Riley being a teenager, let's just say that the emotions will become very unpredictable. At long last, one of the masters of stop motion, Henry Selick, is back with a brand new movie. But you might be wondering, where did he go after all these years? Especially when his last movie, Coraline, was released way back in 2009. Well, a good chunk of that time was creating Wendell and Wild, but beforehand, he was about to make a stop motion animated feature at Pixar. Yes, that Pixar. And yes, Pixar was about to make a stop motion animated feature. The movie was called The Shadow King, and it was about a boy with weirdly long fingers who was able to bring to life shadow puppets so that they could go and stop evil shadow monsters. So why did this movie never happen? Well, 2 words. John Lasseter. Just like his hugs, John kept on meddling the production without Henry's consent to the point that the movie became an absolute mess. And sadly, because of that, along with stop-motion films like Frankenweenie and Paranorman not doing well at the box office, Disney decided to pull the plug on it in 2012 because they thought that the movie was just too weird. It really is too bad because judging by what we have seen with the images and the animation tests that are posted online, we really could have had something special. It's too bad that John can never keep his hands to himself. Which, come to think of it, that's very on brand of him to do so. You may have heard of me talk about Caillou before, and if you have seen this video, then you have definitely heard me talk about Caillou before. So have you ever wondered why Caillou is bald in the first place? No, it has nothing to do with the fact that his name is French for pebble, and it definitely has nothing to do with cancer. Besides, I know some of you think that because it's wishful thinking. No, the true reason why Caillou is bald is because that's the only way that he could stand out from the crowd. You see, when Caillou was created back in 1989, they decided to make him bald so that even the youngest of viewers can actually spot him from the crowd if ever there's a situation that Caillou would be surrounded by children, like if he were in school or something. All the kids have to do is just point at the bald one, and there they can actually find Caillou. Then again, considering how Caillou has become so popular, there is another way to identify him from all the other children. All you have to do is find a little boy who is throwing a temper tantrum, and his parents ain't doing jack all about it! We all know Marvel today as one of the greatest cinematic titans. Every year, we always see them dominate the box office with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But did you know that there was a time when Marvel dominated television animation? Back in the 1980s and even some of the 1990s, Marvel expanded the company with Marvel Productions. And while they have touched upon a few specials and movies, the main thing that they would do is animated TV shows. Of course, they have made some based on their comics, including Spider-Man, Hulk, and X-Men, but what they were more well known for was actually their collaborations with Hasbro, to which they would create some of the most notable shows that would define the 1980s. These shows include G.I. Joe, My Little Pony, Jem and the Holograms, and Transformers. But I didn't even tell you the craziest part. Do you know what's the most popular animated series ever created by Marvel Productions? Muppet Babies. Yes, Marvel was responsible for creating the original Muppet Babies with Jim Henson. Maybe this will be a bit of a stretch, but I gotta ask. When are we gonna see the MCU debut of the Muppet Babies? For the first time ever, the legendary home media distribution company Criterion is including a Disney film to their collection with Pixar's WALL-E. This is a moment that cartoon fans are celebrating because it's actually extremely rare for Criterion to include an animated film in their collection. The first time they ever did so was back in 1989 during their early years when they included Akira into their collection. It wouldn't be until 25 years later when they included their second animated feature with Wes Anderson's Fantastic Mr. Fox. And at that point, it almost seemed like they would include an animated film to their list once a year. Because the year after that, they would include Watership Down, and the year after that, they would include Fantastic Planet. But then after that, that's it! The company adds several new titles every month into their collection, and yet throughout their entire history, only 4 movies are actually animated. But hopefully things can change now that they included WALL-E into their list. Not just for animated films, but also for the possibility of including more Disney films as well. Here's hoping that this could potentially mean that we'll get to see the Criterion release of Fantasia. One of the most fascinating Disney characters that not many people talk about is John Silver from Treasure Planet. Yes, he's a ruthless pirate who's also the father that Jim Hawkins never had, but that's not what I'm talking about. He's a 2D character animated by Glenn Keane with computer animated cyber parts, and the effect works surprisingly well. But Disney wouldn't have done that if they weren't fully sure that it worked in the first place. In order to experiment with the effect, the team at Disney decided to give one of the cyber parts to another Disney pirate, Captain Hook from Peter Pan. They took one of his old animations and placed a cyber arm on top of it. Not only is it to see if the arm can move exactly like in the animation, but also if the effect makes it look like Captain Hook actually does have a cyber arm. And as a result, well, I don't know about you, but I would be down to see a steampunk version of Peter Pan.
You will go ashore, pick up Tinkerbell, and bring her to me.